Welcome everyone to Mamados Medical Media, a 3-on-9 YouTube channel, weekly posting new medical videos. Join our Facebook and Telegram groups for more interaction and latest news. You could also support the channel on Patreon, where we upload multiple choice questions and other premium content. Thanks in advance.
Hi everyone, and welcome to our third video on the sensory system. In this video, we look at the spinothalamic tract and other sensory tracts related to the spinothalamic tract. Starting this video off with the sensory modalities that are being transmitted via the spinothalamic tract. And these sensory modalities are pain and thermal sensation, the sensation of crude touch, crude or deep pressure, tickle and itch sensation, and sexual sensations. The spinothalamic tract is also named the anterolateral tract. Pain and thermal sensations being transmitted through the anterior spinothalamic tract, while the rest of the sensations are being transmitted via the lateral spinothalamic tract. Now let's take a look at the receptors responsible for detecting sensations related to the spinothalamic tract. Starting with pain sensation, all pain sensations are detected via free nerve endings. They have their receptors on the cell membrane, and these receptors are called the vanilloid receptors or TRPV1 receptors. Second is the thermal receptors. Heat and cold sensations are both transmitted by the free nerve endings. Some encapsulated cold receptors have been identified lately. Now let's take a look at some characteristics of thermal receptors. Thermal receptors, just like some nociceptors, are vanilloid receptors. Cold receptors are 3 to 10 times more than heat receptors in number. They respond to a temperature of between 10 to 40 degrees centigrade. On the other hand, heat or warmth receptors respond to temperature of 30 to 40 degrees. Both cold and heat receptors are regarded as intermediately adaptive receptors. Other type of thermal receptors are the pain thermal receptors. Pain cold receptors activated when external temperature falls below 10 degrees, while pain heat receptors activated when the temperature rises above 45 degrees. Merkel's discs are responsible for detecting deep pressure sensations, while other sensory modalities are detected by free nerve endings and hair end organs. Most of afferents having free nerve endings as their receptors are of type C or A delta fibers. Encapsulated cold receptors afferents are type A delta fibers. Afferents having Merkel's disc or hair end organs are type A beta afferents. Now let's look at the pathway of the spinothalamic tract. And just like the dorsal column tract, spinothalamic tract has 3 order neurons. The yellow line here representing our midline. First order neuron has its cell body on the dorsal root ganglia. It enters the spinal cord and synapses with the second order neuron in the dorsal horn of the spinal cord gray matter. Second order neuron crosses to the other side and ascends through the spinal cord. Now there is something special about pain fibers we want to highlight, and it's that pain fibers ascend or descend through the spinal cord about 2 to 3 spinal segments before synapses with the second order neuron. Ascending and descending fibers together form a tract called Lissauer's tract, found just near the top of the dorsal horn gray matter. Unlike the dorsal column tract, ascending fibers of the spinothalamic tract from lower segments of the spinal cord are pushed laterally by fibers crossing the spinal cord from the upper segments. Now we just want to take a quick look into the raxed laminae of the spinal cord, and we will focus on the nuclei of the posterior horn of the spinal cord. First nuclei is called the marginal nucleus. Second one is called the substantia gelatinosa. Third and fourth ones are called the nucleus proprius, while the fifth one is called the reticular nucleus. Type C fibers transmitting signals of pain, thermal sensation, touch, pressure, tickle, itch, or sexual sensations, synapses with the second and third laminae. A delta fibers transmitting signals of pain, cold, and touch sensations, synapse with the first and fifth laminae. A beta fibers transmitting signals of mechanical stimulation, synapse with the third, fourth, fifth, and even sixth laminae. Thermal fibers crossing to the other side are the nearest to the central canal of the spinal cord, followed by pain fibers. Mechanical fibers are the furthest from the central canal. This means that diseases involving the central canal will affect the pain and thermal sensation, while diseases causes damage to the outer part of the spinal cord will affect the fibers of touch. Anatomically speaking, as we go laterally, we found the fibers coming from the lower segments of the spinal cord, quite the opposite to that of the dorsal column tract. Ascending tracts of the anterolateral tract together with other ascending tracts form the spinal lemniscus. Then they ascend till reaching the thalamus. Second-order neuron ascending fibers give too many collaterals, mainly to the reticular formation. In fact, only about 10 to 20% of these fibers reach the thalamus. In the thalamus, they synapse with the ventrio-posterior-lateral nucleus, just like fibers of the dorsal column tract. Some fibers coming from the reticular formation synapse with the intralaminar nucleus of the thalamus. Third-order neurons then passes by the posterior limb of the internal capsule before ascending and forming part of the corona radiata, and synapse with neurons of the sensory cortex. Some branches of these fibers synapse with the neurons of the limbic system for the generation of sensory affect. Before ending with this video, let us quickly skim through some ascending tracts that goes through the spinal lemniscus. Spinothalamic tract is an ascending tract that its neurons synapse with the superior colliculus in the tectum of the midbrain, and this helps in subconscious rolling of the eye with focus towards the area of stimulus. Spinoreticular tract, and in this pathway, ascending fibers, especially that transmitting pain and temperature, synapses with the nuclei of the reticular formation, and the function of it is keeping you alert to the stimulus so that you could avoid it. These fibers then ascend and synapse with the intralaminar nucleus of the thalamus before they give branches to the areas of emotions and consciousness in the cerebral cortex. Spinomesencephalic tract. Here, fibers synapse with the parabrachial nucleus of the pons before they ascend and synapse with the amygdaloid nuclei of the basal ganglia and other areas that stimulates fear sensation in the cerebral cortex. It's important to note that fear is a protective mechanism to avoid getting hurt again in the future. Spinohypothalamic tract. In the spinohypothalamic tract, fibers synapse with the nuclei of the hypothalamus, triggering the sympathetic fight or flight reflex. For example, during severe pain, there is a higher blood pressure and heart rate compared to the resting state. The hypothalamus also triggers the adrenal gland to synthesize and release stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. So in a nutshell, in the spinothalamic tract, The first order neuron synapse at the dorsal horn, then the second order neuron decussate to the other side and ascend till reaching the ventro-posterolateral nucleus of the thalamus. Then the third order neuron ascend and synapse with areas of the somatosensory cortex. And that's it for the spinothalamic tract. Our next video will be on the encoding of sensory information in the cerebral cortex. So we meet again until next week. Goodbye.